Hi, my name is Andy, and I want to discuss what I learned the last couple of days about gender theory and feminism. I'm going to start with gender theory. So there's sex and there's gender. So sex is biological. It's defined at birth, based on most likely, it is based on your reproductive organs, and gender is performative. Then that's based on the ideas of Judith Butler, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to explain what I mean by performative. So in J.L. Austin's speech act theory, there's the idea that there's two categories of words and statements. There's constative and there's performative. So constative, or just what you normally think of like descriptive statements. So like the sky is blue is a constative statement. It doesn't really do anything but describe something. It doesn't create or perform an action. Performative, on the other hand, an example of one would be I do or I promise. So I promise, by saying that statement, you are creating the idea of the promise. You're creating the promise itself through the act of saying the statement. So it actually performs an act. The statement performs an act through its stating. So saying I do at a wedding, you're agreeing to a contract through the act of you saying those words. So those words perform an action of agreeing to a contract. So in Judith Butler's gender theory, she defines gender as performative, saying that by adhering to these societal definitions of what it means to be woman and acting them out or performing them through your life, your daily life, you are actually creating that gender in yourself. You are becoming that gender. It's very similar to Simone de Beauvoir, feminist and existentialist philosopher from the 20th century, says her quote that one is not born a woman but becomes a woman. So by so going explain that a little bit further, it's that when you're born, you are not necessarily a gender, but usually based on your sex, you are groomed to act in a way that defines your gender, or creates your gender, or creates your womanhood, or your manhood, through by enacting the societal ideas of that, by doing the actions of that societally defined idea. So there's the idea of an actor in a play, which is not fully correct, but I'm going to explain why it's not correct. So there's the idea of imagine that there's a strong character, so that your job is to play the strong character. So you might lift heavy objects, you might speak in a deep voice, or dress in like rugged clothing. And that is what is societally defined as a strong character. So if someone else acts in that same role, you can say that they are acting as a strong character, or they become a strong character. So this isn't fully correct because it kind of suggests that it's fake, that you can just that it's acting in a way, but it's acting in like the theatrical sense. But acting in the gender definition actually creates the idea that it creates your identity. Your gender identity is defined by what you create it to be, by kind of fitting into these societal definitions. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, so that's kind of Judith Butler's gender definition of performative gender. And so when thinking about like non-binary people, you could say that maybe they don't have the same definition of what it means to be I'm talking about like gender fluid people, don't have a strict societal norm that they fit into, so they kind of jump between these societal roles, So you can never say that they are one or the other. They're not masculine or feminine, but they just kind of jump between them. So gender performance, not in theatrical sense again, is actually what you do over time. It's not in one specific instance. Gender is created. So these non-gender fluid people, they don't align with us any specific role over an extended period of time, so they kind of jump between them, and they don't build a concrete idea of their gender. Kind of similar to non-binary people. But yeah, so, and then going on to the topic of how this relates to, or how feminism, what I learned about feminism, there's a couple different forms of feminism that I learned from Bell Hooks, which there's radical feminism, there's liberal feminism, and there's revolutionary feminism. Bell Hooks being a revolutionary feminist. Liberal feminism looks to remove societal disadvantages of women, and also, okay, we'll get there in a second. Remove societal disadvantages of women within the existing society that we have, so without dismantling it and the structures that we have in place, through things like gender pay gap reduction or education opportunities. So women seek to change the system without actually completely changing it from the ground up, but actually allowing for gender equality within the existing system that we have. And then radical feminism is a little bit different in that it's kind of contrary in that it looks to redefine the current system, patriarchal system that we have. So like removing gender roles in the family, so like kind of these negative these historically disadvantageous ideas of men are the breadwinners and women are the caretakers. So this kind of leaves men in a system of power over women and removes a lot of the autonomy of women. So that's kind of radical feminism. It looks to dismantle the patriarch, and the revolutionary feminism kind of builds off of radical feminism, but it adds intersectionality in that it thinks that race and sexual orientation and a bunch of other characteristics like those are part of the system that needs to be dismantled, and you can't look at feminism alone, but actually the intersectionality of all these different fields. I also learned about sexism from Bell Hooks' definition of it. Or feminism in that it looks to dismantle her definition of feminism. Sorry, let me correct myself. Her definition of feminism looks to dismantle sexism, sexual exploitation, and oppression. Bell Hooks was really interesting to read. But yeah, that's mostly what I've learned.